like to welcome everybody this evening to our first conversation of how we can be participating in the lives of young adults, whether that be simply through meeting with young adults or in campus ministries if we happen to have campuses near us, but also not forgetting that tech schools and other venues are also not just University of Wisconsin or other independent colleges. Our speakers this evening include Erich Richey. First, I should say I'm Mother Bobbi. For those who don't know me, Mother Bobbi Kraft, pronoun she, her. I am currently chaplain at St. Francis House Episcopal Student Center on the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus. Our ministry has been there for 100 years, and I came on board about 3 years ago to help restart the ministry in the midst of COVID. We have Erich Richey, who is our brand new campus ministry developer for Prov 5, Province 5 Rocks. Brought to us in part through a grant from Trinity Wall Street. Erich was brought on board to help parishes consider ways in which they can do ministry with young adults. The campus ministers, as part of ministry, have a network, and we wanted to have a way for parishes to network as well across the province, because our province does a really wonderful job of lifting each other up and supporting one another. To that end, beloved community at Stevens Point has had ongoing relationships in both the Episcopal Church and the Lutheran Church. They have a combined ministry. And have worked with young adults and students at UW Stevens Point. Mother Jane Johnson and lay leaders Cyndi Royer and Marti Sowka will be sharing with us about their work with young adults in a little bit. At this point, I'd like to welcome and turn things over to Erich, who is our guide. Erich, I'm so thankful for your coordinating this with all of us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother Bobbi. And thanks to all of you who are with us tonight from the Diocese of Wisconsin and around the province. It's a joy to invite other worshiping communities that are similar in many ways to beloved community and that are entering into this work and that I've gotten to know here over the first couple months on the job. So welcome to you, wherever you're joining us from. And just a brief word about my position to kind of frame things here a little bit as far as what's coming after this call and in the months to come. As Mother Bobbi's shared, I am the new campus ministry developer for Province 5. And so that title involves me in connecting, training, coaching, and encouraging parishes and worshiping communities in many different contexts who are at various stages of discerning what it looks like to come alongside and support college students in a way that makes sense in their particular ministry context. So I'll invite our Province 5 coordinator, Heather Barta, here to just kind of put the website in the chat for people if they're here. And you can see the webpage there, a nice Google form to connect with me, and I'll follow up with you. And my email, all this stuff, all the contact info will be made available to you in the aftermath of our time together tonight. But before we bring the wonderful people from beloved community into the conversation here, I wanted to just frame things briefly. As you'll hear from them, they're involved in this work of building trust and relaunching campus ministry coming out of COVID is a big part of their story, a legacy of ministry that predated that certainly, but just in the last few years, really discerning with the help of the Holy Spirit, what does it look like for them to relaunch ministry? And so I wanted to just frame kind of the context, not just for them, but for all of us as we engage institutions of higher learning. And to do that, I wanted to bring in just one slide from Springtide research. Springtide Research, you may be familiar with, is a sociological research firm that partners, that has researchers, social scientists from a variety of religious backgrounds, including non-religious folks, atheists, agnostics, and from every major religion. And they do some really wonderful research on young people. Every year they produce a report called The State of Religion and Young People. Here's some of the reports from the last few years. And back in 2020, they released a report on the topic of relational authority. And what they were doing in that report was navigating something which we probably have recognized in our engagement with young people and kind of in the broader culture as well. Springtide identified that we are in the middle of what they call the trust revolution. And what they were highlighting was the fact that young people feel this acutely, but even more broadly in our society, we are all experiencing some deep distrust of institutions, and not just the church as an institution, but all these other ones as well. And you can kind of see in this slide from their 2020 report that highlights the ways in which all of us have become more and more skeptical of institutional forms of gathering. And obviously there's some very good reasons for that. There's some, we all know too much, we've read too much, we've seen too much. But this is changing the landscape and changing kind of the playing field for Christian mission, in particularly as we think about how to reach college students and come alongside them. They are not trusting institutional forms of religion, even more progressive ones, even ones that are safer and healthier and more nuanced and self-aware in the ways that they used to. And so that's the bad news. The good news is that young people are very open to relationship. And that's part of the story you're going to hear from the people at Beloved Community Stevens Point as we go forward. So we'll come back and unpack this a little bit more as we wrap up that conversation at the end of our time together tonight. But just wanted to put that out there now to say, like, hey, we feel this in the church, but lots of other institutions are feeling this as well. It's not unique to us. And that's just an important context. So as we go forward here now to bring in our friends from Stevens Point into the conversation here, I'm going to begin by just asking Mother Jane to share a little bit about the historical context of Beloved Community's work with young adults and college students at Stevens Point, and kind of what that legacy has looked like, and bringing us up to the current moment, kind of in the last few years coming out of COVID and some of what you all were navigating. So welcome,
Sure.
Mother Jane.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. Beloved Community is a union congregation, which means we're an Episcopal church and an ELCA Lutheran church. We're both. Everybody is fully both. But that has been 7 years in the making. So the history of our work with campus ministry actually started with Intercession Episcopal before we joined together. Intercession had a church building that was within walking distance, a couple of blocks of the university. And when I arrived there in 2011, knew that Intercession at times had like a Canterbury club at the university, right? Kind of a traditional thing where they would show up there, they would have services. Sometimes college students would come over to the church, but there wasn't really any active campus ministry. And for the first couple of years, trying to get on campus was really challenging. It was challenging because at least at UW Stevens Point, it's all run through student orgs. So outside entities can't just come in and say, hey, we're going to do ministry here. And there's a huge campus crusade ministry here. And that's kind of the main campus ministry on campus. So really struggled with that. Then probably about, let's see, it's 2025. So probably about 10, 11 years ago, I connected with the United Methodist campus minister, who They had a couple of college kids that would come over to their church, but she also struggled to be on campus. Together, we got about 5 students and created a student org and started doing some things on or near campus. And it was a pretty traditional campus ministry in the sense of we would have just food gatherings, we would have worship services, we did dinner church. We also worked with the Roman Catholic churches. They had a little house on site, and they allowed us to use their space. So there was a lot of collaboration, but it was just kind of those 5 students, and it didn't evolve into much of anything else. That kind of just kind of disintegrated in some ways. Just it lost energy and steam. Then after we moved over here, so now the Intercession sold their building and moved about 3.5 miles away and away from the university. We're on the east side of town now. And moved into this building. And then we had a few folks who had a heart for wanting to connect to students on campus again, and in particularly through the Queer Resource Center. And so we actually just started making connections with the leaders there and had to have a lot of conversations, right? That we're not trying to evangelize. We just want to support these students. And so we started going over there and providing meals or providing food, showing up. And eventually, over the course of 2 years, so now we're talking about 2018, 2019, every month we had a gathering and more, and it started to alternate. So they were coming to our spot. We did a Trans Day of Remembrance here in 2019. We had some speakers here. They came over for a Thanksgiving dinner in 2019. And so we built that trust and that relationship. And then COVID. and not only that, there's with often change in who worked in the Queer Resource Center and who the leaders were too. So when we were coming back out of COVID and we started being able to do things in person, trying to start rebuild that relationship again. Started out pretty slow. And most of the students whom we had built relationships with were no longer there. They had graduated or they'd gone to other schools. And so it was basically in many ways, except that we had gained trust with the leadership on campus from the Queer Resource Center. So that stayed the same. And that allowed us then to start rebuilding that relationship and starting with how can we support your students? How can we help them to feel safe and involved? And how can we learn from them, right? So not just here's what we have to offer you, but this sense of mutuality. And then luckily, we have folks in the beloved community, not just Marti and Cyndi, but Marti and Cyndi have stepped up as leaders who took over kind of reknitting that relationship with the leaders on campus, and then it spread. So on UW SP, in the student union where the center is, where the Queer Resource Center is, right next to it is the Multicultural Center, and right next to that is the Native American Center. So now it's kind of spread across those 3. And big and through Marti and Cyndi's work, and it's really about still that same premise of us going there. Like Luke 10 is really important. Go out, go to where the folks are instead of expecting folks come to you. And our whole goal is just to build relationships and build mutual relationships, learn from them, have them learn from us, trust each other. So they've gone and we've taken meals there. They're going to have a pizza pop-up here soon. We've hosted pizza before they had their drag bingo, all kinds of ways that we've just continued to build relationships. And I think I don't want to take away Marti and Cyndi's stories because they have some good stories. But
Right. No, that's great. That's great. And we're going to get to those stories here in just a second. So yeah, so that really helpful context to recognize a few things. One, I want to highlight the geography, right? The shifting geography from where you were to where you are now, a few miles away, and the ways in which you all work to overcome that shifting geography. The language of reweaving, reknitting relationships, right? As the turnover in higher ed among faculty and staff, the turnover of students. These, as Mother Bobbi says, you know, it's heartbreaking in many ways, this work,
Yeah.
the goodbyes. And so the ways in which you all engaged in that reweaving and reknitting work, I think is really, really powerful as well. So thanks for kind of giving us that historical context. And so
Can
we'll
I
turn
add
now
a
to
couple
Marti
more
and
things? Oh, can I add a couple of things that I
sure,
forgot?
yeah, go for it.
One is that we also have, as members, professors who show up at these things, and so that helps. But the other thing is, and again, remember, we're like 3.5 miles away from the university. So if you're a university student who does not have a car, we are not in a location that's easy to get to. But we currently have 8 college students who come over here, and this is their church, and they come on Sunday morning. We actually, one of them is on staff. One of them is our director of music ministry. And so it's just been really interesting. And when you ask them, how did you find us? The answers come by, they were looking for a church that was inclusive. And for whatever reason, through their conversations or their online searches, we continued to pop up. But also they word of mouth from professors. And it's just been really interesting to see that happen. 2 of them one came because we were the Episcopal church in town, and one came because we were one of the ELCA Lutheran churches in town. But the majority of them, it wasn't denomination that drove them here, or literally drove them here. Sometimes they have to get rides, sometimes they ride bikes, sometimes they have their own transportation. So that's really burgeoning this year. Started some last year, is burgeoning this year. To the point that our director of music ministries boyfriend has started coming. He was really kind of off to the side for a while. And he named, maybe a Sunday ago, in conversation that we had during service, that, so many young adults, he said, they're just so tired because not only did they come out of COVID, but they are living in a time of existential climate change. They are living in a time when, and it's part of what you talked about, that distrust in authority, but that also means that all of the things that have been in place that have supported generations throughout time are defunct. And the country is literally defunct because we do not work together. And so these young adults are just exhausted. They're just exhausted. And so now I've asked if we can have a conversation with them so that we can figure out how do we accompany them in that exhaustion in other ways.
Right. No, that's beautiful. Thanks for adding that. And that's super helpful to kind of capture some of the various means by which God is drawing people into your community. And that note about just the sense of displacement and exhaustion, and the need for congregations to be a source of consolation and comfort and just lamenting and sitting with people in the midst of those challenges. Really, really powerful stuff. So thanks for sharing that. We'll get into some of those stories with you, Marti and Cyndi, but I want to begin by asking you, when you kind of took on this responsibility to help lead, as lay leaders, to lead this outreach and this ministry to University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, what were your first, impressions, your first feelings as you got on campus and began to engage with students and imagine what would it look like to kind of relaunch this in the wake of COVID? What was exciting? What was overwhelming? What were your first impressions?
I think for me, I will acknowledge that Mother Jane is really good at getting her congregation to step up when I don't know if I felt comfortable being the leader, but she sees leadership in people, so that's a good thing. For me, I signed up to do it because I was a mom of college kids, and my college kids were graduating and starting careers, and I'm like, yeah, but I still have mom in me, right? Like there's college kids I can mom. So I think that's where it started for me. The first time I went, it's the energy. Just being around young people is energizing. Even when I'm really tired after a day of work, like Monday, we're doing the pizza pop-up. I know I'll be exhausted and it'll be 4:30 and I don't want to go. And then I'll have so much fun. Because just hearing their stories and hearing what's happening in their life is fun. I think we're struggling. I appreciate that you think we're doing really well. So, because I feel like we should be doing so much more.
So
And-
you should all know that Cindy's a high achiever. So, and as is Mother Jane. And I came at it from a perspective of having recently left the Catholic Newman Parish on campus that was going through a ton of changes. So I came from a background where we always directed a lot of what we did towards the students. So this opportunity to work with Cyndi and to be back on campus was exciting to me. And also that connection to start with the Queer Resource Center, because that still is a very marginalized group. And for us to go in there and say, this is the community we're from, but we're just here to be here, to share some food, to talk to you about how things are going, and not to have any expectations that we're going to pull you into something. And again, I think that's where the trust starts to build.
That's great, Marty. Thanks. Yeah. You were when we talked about a month ago in preparation for this, you were both kind of sharing how it was helpful to kind of be able to narrow your focus, right? This great big campus, where do we begin? You had some historical connection to the Queer Resource Center and so forth. But talk about a little bit about how you, kind of like Mother Jane was sharing, rebuilt those relationships or made relationships with the new leaders of those parts of the university and the Indigenous Students Association as well. What was that process like, and how did that unfold?
I think there was already a relationship with Rachel, the director of the Native American Center, prior to COVID. So that was helpful. I think, again, maybe Marty calls me an overachiever. It's I know I've sat down with the directors of the different resources 2 summers ago, like over the summer, and tried to do some pre-planning for the school year.
Right.
And where are opportunities that we can be of service to you? And that seemed to go really well that year. Like they pointed out, oh, we're having this event. Could you have people at the door to sell tickets? Yeah, we can do that for you. So I think we need to get back into that service to them. Helps to build that trust. And I think, yes, we're doing the pizza pop-ups. Yes, we're doing gift bag or care packages, but I think us providing service shows them that we're not in it for conversion or in it for us. Does that make?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I want to support something that Cyndi is not, and Cyndi and Marty are not taking credit for. So all of these other things have happened because they've been present and have continued that relationship. So for example, the Native American Center has come to our building to use our building to make fry bread tacos. They had their Orange Shirt Day here last year. That's happened because of their presence there, right? And so this is an extension. And so yes, I got connected to Rachel, but it's because of all of these other things that happening, and because she says, well, who's in charge over there at
Right.
Beloved Community, and then has a conversation with me. And because of their presence and ongoing presence upstairs in the student union, then we get invited to things like last year when the university did like a pride gathering at the university, an informational thing. We got invited to show up as a church there, and that's because they're showing up there. And because we show up there, then we're more than welcome, and people know who we are when we go to the Pride event in Stevens Point. So it's like all these extenuating things that are really tentacles that come out from campus ministry, right? And those 8 students who show up, part of the reason they show up here is because they know that Cyndi and Marti and others who joined Cyndi and Marti at the student union have invested themselves there.
Yes, yes, that's so good.
Well, and the trust issue, again, I can't overstate that. This, you know, that I can go in and have a conversation with someone when we do a pizza pop-up and know that I can offer them this safe place that is the Beloved Community. You know, if they ever need it, it's there, and they are always welcome there. And that we're there for them, and that we're on campus, to start developing relationships, because we want them, you know, it's all about the love, right? And so we want them to know that they are loved, that in this community of, you know, especially these days, the things done in the name of Christianity, that we represent a very welcoming, inclusive, non-judgmental place for them to be. And especially, I think that's a great message for the 3 centers on campus. And then the other things that are really exciting, the growth in students that are just finding us other ways because of, again, relationships. And I think our consistent presence in just doing these small things consistently, like the pizza pop-ups. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, no. Go ahead, Cyndi. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think we did, not last year, I think it was the year before, we did a game night that we sponsored. And
on campus, though.
Yes, on campus.
Mhm.
So we brought in food. It was in partnership with the Queer Resource Center. And I think for those of us, Marti and I, and there were a couple others from Beloved who came, and we just played board games. There was, you know, staff members, there were students, it was a small group. But I know Marti and I both left there in awe of the students, in awe of their stories, in awe of what's happening to them in our community that we see as a liberal, welcoming community, and the harassment and things that have happened to them. So I think that's a big part of it, is when we go, we're also learning. So the more we learn, the more we can give back.
Right. And I remember that we actually played some games with 3 young women who are part of the gay community, who said they felt safe on campus, but leaving campus, they felt vulnerable. And so again, Cyndi and I, Mother Jane, our community at Beloved Community, we're part of that community. So those are things that, are hard to hear, but we were, I was grateful they shared that with us.
Right. Well, thank you for what you're doing in terms of ministry in the name of Christ, and for you know, sharing those stories with us. We're gonna keep you around for some Q&A here in a few minutes, but just kind of a couple key themes to highlight here. One, the curiosity of seeking out student life people and finding how can we be a blessing to the campus. You know, like Cyndi was saying, meeting with them in the summertime ahead of time. What are the needs? What are the concerns? who are the students that are overlooked or forgotten? And just how that curiosity is a great gift to those staff people who are overworked and trying so hard to give students a great experience. I think that was just a major, a key theme I wanted to highlight. The other one here is we just a few, and these slides will be available to you. We talked about the exhaustion. Mother Jane was sharing the loneliness and isolation, the mental health crisis. Again, this is from Springtide, just highlighting how few young people have trusted adults to talk to about these matters. And so the community showing up, being guests again and again and again and again to just be present and learn and open themselves up to the students and the credibility that creates. Springtide kind of tracked this when there's 0 to 1 to 2 to 4 to 5+ trusted adults in a young person's life. The impact on loneliness, social isolation, and stress, it's unbelievable. Again, this research is from a few years ago, but the notion that students feel much less alone and much more connected when they have people like Cyndi and Marti and the others from Beloved Community building those relationships with them. And so this is just the last one here. These basic tools for relational authority: listening, transparency, integrity, care, expertise. These are things, this is what's in the background of all these stories, right? And just the impact that this has on young people is really, really significant. So we didn't talk about this. I didn't even share these slides or any of this info when we talked a month ago, but their stories are just really indicative of this reality that Springtide is pointing to here. And just a really beautiful ministry of mutuality and humility and openness and joy for all parties involved. And Mother Jane was sharing some of the fruit of that, right, with the extended relationships with other communities there in Stevens Point. So stick around. We're going to open it up for Q&A here in a few minutes, but first we're going to let Mother Bobbi share kind of her story of being called into campus ministry and what some of the lessons and the impact of that might be for us as we think about how to move forward.
Thanks, Erich. So I just wanted to share this evening as well, my own story. I want to make sure, are you hearing me? Yes, okay. My own story, and when I was an undergrad at Winona State, there was a parish that, unbeknownst to me as an incoming freshman, their congregation during the summertime would gather together those individuals who would sign up, volunteer, be ready to take part in the weekly Sunday dinner after church. And so as an incoming freshman and doing some church shopping and finding a church that would bring me to campus, they would pick us up and bring us to their facility, and then we'd have lunch afterwards. What we didn't know at the time was that for the first 4 weeks of the school year, they hosted a lunch for the students. And there were families that would sit at the tables and talk with us and ask us about why we were at school and where we were from and what our favorite things were to do. And through the course of it, it was almost as if it was speed dating in some ways. These congregants had signed up to be willing to adopt a student. And Phil and Val Gaddis were a couple who I met over one of those lunches. And over the course of the 4 weeks, I regularly ended up seeking out Phil and Val. Val worked for the local cable company, and Phil was a police officer with a K-9 unit. And by the end of those 4 weeks, the lunches ended, And Phil and Val said to me, would you like to come to our house for lunch next month? And so that started the relationship. Here I am, oh gosh, how many years later, and I'm still in touch with Phil and Val. Their children are grown. The dog, Tori, is long since gone, but that relationship, that family that was willing to take me in during a time where, as you saw in some of those slides, the importance of having another adult, the importance of, like Cyndi and Marti shared, about those who feel vulnerable when they're off campus. Who do they call? And now, as a campus minister, I get those calls, but I also know so many students who, to have a local touchstone, someone who can help them in the community. I am a campus minister today as a result of my experience while I was in undergrad and having people who, now in the Episcopal Church, we talk about walking in love, and people that were willing to walk with me during that crazy season. And so I give great thanks for those who walked with. And the importance of lay ministry. Often I'll hear people go, oh, but we don't have a campus minister. Yeah, but you have people who are passionate about the lives of young adults and how we can connect young adults to those who want to hear their stories, those who want to walk with them, those who want to support them. And there's various ways of doing that. The important thing is consistency, like that parish who each year hosted those 4 lunches at the beginning of the school year that ended up leading into family dinners on Sundays, and then weekly or weeknight outings or other things depending on the family. But to have consistency is so important, to keep showing up, whether there's 1 person or 10 people, to just keep showing up. And to think of it like feeding deer, to keep coming out, to keep being present with them, to hear their stories, and to listen, to truly listen. We have to be willing to have our hearts broken. As a campus minister now, I see it every year. My population changes. My students, I have 13 that are graduating this year, and that's going to leave a big hole. But along the way, as we heard with some of the others, how they're starting to come because that trust has been built. And referrals start to happen because they know, they start to learn and share the news that this is a safe place. Today, I go out on campus with my dog, who is trained as a therapy dog, and just to walk and have students come and now come into the house just so they can pet the dog, and know that this is the place they can come. Much like Beloved Community, where students are learning because of the parishioners being out where the students are, that they're learning that Beloved Community is a safe place for them off of campus as well. And as you've heard, there's the joy of relationship. Not only heartbreak because they do leave, but also the joy along the way. We have to be willing to walk with others, to go out, to glean from the edges, whether that be the LGBTQ community or the international students who come, and here in Wisconsin, they think they know winter gear, and then winter hits and they don't have nearly the gear for what they need. The students at St. Francis House have now started a clothing loan library that they're setting up with the international students, so that as international students leave, they can leave their winter gear and have it go to somebody else in the future. And building relationships with parishes for mentoring, whether that be learning how to sew, or a grandma or an aunt or a sister type figure who will help in getting, fixing some clothing or showing them how to do the fixing. Some of those who have construction abilities will invite students along to learn how to use their saws, learn how to build a ramp and do things together. But it's that relationship building. As a result, today I am a campus minister because of those who are willing to invest time and build relationships those many years ago. And so that's the thing I would encourage everyone to do to get started.
All right. Thank you, Mother Bobbi, for your ministry and for just sharing your story of your ministry with us tonight. So we have a few minutes for Q&A. It doesn't even have to be a question. It could just be some, just what's stirring in you as you hear the story of beloved community, Stephen's Point, as you hear kind of their stories of reweaving relationship, reconnecting, relaunching after COVID, and what their posture was as they engaged the campus, what they're still learning and yearning for. Again, if you have a question, by all means, go ahead and unmute and put it out there. But if you just have if you're just processing what you've heard tonight, this is a great place to do that too. I'll put something out and give you folks a moment to think. The one thing I heard tonight that struck me, I think you mentioned this, Cyndi, is thinking that your context or your city, and then hearing from a student, I don't feel safe here, or that their experience is something very, very different. And I think that reality of seeing things through the eyes of a student as they, as you built the trust for them to share that with you, that's such a gift for congregations to have fresh eyes on a situation and a fresh sense of where there's injustice or where there's fear or where there's oppression. And I think that's kind of embedded in the work of mission, and particularly mission alongside college students, is like that we're constantly unlearning things, and we are thrown into unlearning assumptions we have about this generation or about the world of higher ed or about any sort of thing on campus. And it's such a gift to be kind of venturing out, following Jesus in those places. But yeah, other thoughts on questions from the kind of theoretical to the practical as you've reflected on this tonight?
Really, there's a lot, Erich. The thing I'm kind of turning over in my mind right now is Cyndi and Marti's fantastic level of commitment to this. And, I think we're a small congregation. We have about average Sunday attendance about 40, 45. In that group, we might have 3 or 4 students. And we lure some of them with that are singers with a mini little scholarship that we give for musicians who want to spend time with our choir. So it's we do practice church for pay. But we do have coffee hour afterwards and everybody socializes. I don't think that we ever, I'm just thinking about it, I don't think we have ever sort of let people know in our congregation that we would like them to talk with the college students, or that might be something that we could do as an intentional thing. It happens, but I think a lot of times the college students sit with themselves and talk, and 1 or 2 other people might sit with them, and it's kind of random. We are starting, this is very timely because we are starting a small grant where we're going to provide some evening meals on Sundays. And the reason that we got into this was because we started talking a lot about loneliness and how many people there are in our community since COVID that have not reformed attachments and are not, I mean, there's a lot of people that are just lonely of all ages. So, so we thought this would be a way to go. And we start that second Sunday of April. But one of the things we had talked about is with all the volunteers, doing some kind of discussion ahead of time about, why you're volunteering, what loneliness is about. And so you've given me a lot to think about in terms of the kind of, I know with myself sometimes what gets in the way, I get nervous and then I start talking too much. And so, being able to be actively listening to people in that environment would be really important. And I would be one of the ones that would have to sort of say to myself, okay, Diane, listen, and
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
enough from me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for
Diane,
sharing, Diane. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, thanks for sharing that. One of the things that we're working with Bex, our communications person, on setting up some resources on the diocesan webpage, including there's a resource that the Province 5 campus ministers have shared with congregations called What Not to Say at Coffee Hour, which is really a list of
Yay.
questions that are, and how to rephrase it. Instead of saying, "Are you new here?"
Yeah.
or "What's your major?"
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
other
Right.
ways of engaging in conversation that, so that's one of those resources that we're going to have on our webpage, but that we'll share after this meeting as well.
Great.
And they're great resources, whether it's a young adult or someone that you think is new visiting. So
Right. Yeah, good. That's another thing, and as a church that we're working on, is that we do seem to have people that scope us out. We are the only church in town that flies an LGBTQ plus flag and a Black Lives Matter flag. So, there are people that come in to just kind of see if we're all green or what, I don't know. But we have a really not a great track record of, getting them to come back or inviting them back, I guess. I'm not forcing anybody, but just we've
Sure.
been looking at that and saying, well, what can we do differently that might help people feel okay about coming
Diane,
back?
Right.
Diane, where are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm in Kirksville, Missouri, a town of 17,000 people, home of Truman State University and AT Still University, which is the founding institute of for doctors of osteopathy.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I think sometimes I wonder if a lot of things I have found happen by accident, it feels like an accident to me, but it's really just the Holy Spirit. Because I'm curious about something and then relationships bloom and then something grows from that, right? So I'm wondering if congregations or groups of people, or even just groups of people in a church, are curious about what it's like to have grown up in this time period.
Yeah.
And recognize the only way they can learn that really is to talk with folks, because we're talking about night and day when we talk about when we grew up and when we went to college and what life was like then and now.
Yeah.
And thinking about, think about somebody who is 20 years old. They were born in 2005.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
They've never flown on a plane without having to go through TSA.
Right.
They have, since their whole lives, they've never lived in a time when the United States politically has been united.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Going after a common goal, maybe in different ways, but So they're coming from such a different place. So I just wonder sometimes if instead of going, we want to build a campus ministry, we start with, what do we need to know? Where do I
Mhm.
got to go to find out that information? Who's the experts on that? And if one
Mhm.
of those questions is dealing with young adults, then how do I go to them and find that out? Right. And that's scary. Boy, it's scary. It's
Mhm.
scary.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes it might not even be like this official thing or a formal thing. It might be, like I'm sure in your town there are places where those young adults are gathering.
Yeah.
Like young adults gather at Zest Coffee House all the time over here, right? Like I can go there and sit in their midst on the same day every week, and things start to happen.
Mm. Okay.
Right? I can even then
The
say,
magnetism of the collar. Yeah, right. Yeah.
but even without my collar, and I can even say to the barista there, hey, listen, the next 10 students that come in, I'm going to buy their drink.
Oh,
And you can just tell them I'm over there if they want to thank me.
okay.
Right? Because it's the question and to listen to the conversations that are happening, right?
Yeah.
Because again, that question is what you're curious about.
Hmm.
I think I found that trying to tackle it is, oh my God, I gotta build a campus ministry. I live right by a university. Like that didn't get me anywhere fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's really, I mean, that's a really important insight. And I mean, we've had some successful times, and one of the most successful times that we actually had was during COVID itself, because we had a couple of campus minister leaders, students, who just took it online, and they did a support group and a campus ministry online. And that it didn't mean that they were, showing up for church online or doing anything like that, but they were doing a beautiful ministry. And it was just amazing to watch that happen.
They were being the church.
They
Yeah,
were the
That's
church.
right.
They were being the
That's-
church.
yeah.
Yeah.
They may not show up for worship on Sunday, but church does not stop there.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's really important. And it's also important uh, um, for us to understand, I mean, in the resource allocation game, that that we don't have to have an output. Yeah.
Can we
So
let go of productivity as our goal and our sign of success and make it about relationships instead? How many
Yeah.
relationships? How
Yeah.
many people's lives have you touched? Who did you listen to today? Like, what if
Yeah.
that were our metrics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I want to just touch a moment on the collar comment that you made,
Yeah.
because quite frankly, yes, I do wear my collar on campus every day to practice the ministry of presence, but I also have purple hair and a dog. And suddenly it's like, wait, I might be able to ask her a question. So Mother Jane's comment about buying coffee for people in the coffee house, I'm looking at you and your white hair, and I'm going, oh, she reminds me of my grandma, kind of thing. I mean, that's the kind of thing a student would go. And oh, maybe I could ask her a question. There's a lot of fear attached with this. When you look at that trust comment that was, it was 36% now when it comes to religious entities. So this is not an attractor for students by any means.
You mean it's not magic?
No, it's not.
Sometimes it's an obstacle.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, not with this generation for sure.
yeah.
Right.
I saw the question that popped up in the chat about the tech schools.
Right. And let me read that question for folks who
Yeah.
are watching this later, and then love for you to comment on that, Cyndi. Someone put in the chat, I don't have a 4-year campus, but we do have a tech school. Any starter points for forming that relationship and how to address the unique the needs that are unique to tech schools? Go ahead.
I don't know, but I'm currently, as another part of my ministry through Beloved, taking a nonprofit leadership class at the tech school. So have started to make connections to people who work there. So that was on my radar to reach out to the head of the tech school who comes to our class every week and just say, hey, is there a need? Is there something we could do? Is there, Mother Jane's point to the coffee, our tech school has a little coffee house right in it, you know, so it might be, I don't know what the makeup of theirs is. Ours is very small, but it does have a little coffee area. So that would be a great way just to go sit in the coffee area and get to know people. But I don't think I would have felt comfortable doing it until I had taken this class. And now I've been hanging out there and I've gotten to know what it's like. So yeah,
Right.
I didn't have a
right.
good answer
No,
other than I'm
no,
taking a
that's
class
great.
there.
And I want to piggyback off of that because that's exactly going back to what Mother Jane was saying before of following the Holy Spirit. Because of your being at a class, you now are comfortable. And let's not forget the staff. You know, so often people are like, how do I connect to the students? But the staff need to have our relationships as well. And quite often it's through building those relationships with staff that then that in itself is ministry. And through that, sometimes the Holy Spirit leads us to other avenues, including students, but to be able to also support staff who are on the front lines with students. They need relationship as well.
Yeah, amen. That's a great point, Mother Bobbi. And the I know we're getting towards the end of our time here, and we're going to be wrapping up very soon. But it's a great question, and it's a great everything that's already been said. Amen to that. I've already begun working with one congregation in Wisconsin, actually, that's considering reaching out to a trade and technical school, and the clergy person and I, we were researching the website and together, and like this particular one had lots of clubs, lots of connections. You know, my assumption, which was erroneous, was that there might not be a lot going on at a trade and technical school in terms of community. People might be in and out, you know, getting their degree and their certifications and not hanging around. But this particular one had quite a lot going on, and so having those, you know, doing the research on the website. Sometimes that information's out of date, so you always want to follow it up by talking to staff people, talking to the people on the ground to really get a feel for what the culture is like and what the needs are. But yeah, that same humility and curiosity in any context will serve you well as you think about how to reach a trade and technical school. Mother Jane, did you have something to add? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to name that I think when I look back and think about, you know, when 14 years ago when I arrived at Stevens Point and thought, how do I get a campus ministry? I kind of started with this sense of what campus ministry looks like is that then there are college kids at my church at worship, or I'm going over there and doing some kind of cool worship service at the college. And I want to suggest that you just set all of that aside and that I think with that church service, that worship service, its role in this thing is to empower and equip the folks that are already there in that church to go out and build relationships with young people wherever they are. And because of those relationships, those young folks might walk into a church. Maybe it will be yours, maybe it won't, or they'll attend a service, but they're going to start to trust that institution again because of people, right? Not because of a worship service. So I just think we need to say that out loud and over again.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And thanks for naming that clearly. All right, well, we are reaching kind of the end of our hour together here, but we do have some final announcements for you here as we think about next steps. First of all, I want to thank Mother Jane and Cyndi and Marti coming to represent beloved community Stevens Point and just bearing witness to what Christ is doing in your midst. Really, really encouraging stories marked by all these things we talked about, the curiosity, the humility, the showing up, the becoming a guest in order to have opportunities to host and serve students in these powerful ways. So thanks to them for being a part of this. Where do we go from here? Well, hopefully we'll have more of these gatherings in the future. Mother Bobbi and I will communicate those opportunities to you all here within the Diocese of Wisconsin, as I know you're all just kind of reunified and reimagining what does it look like to work together in this way in the coming months. As I said at the outset, and I'm going to throw it over here to Heather, our Province 5 coordinator, in a moment, but Province 5 is committed to helping you in this work with conversations, connections, coaching, training. And so reach out to me, set up a time to talk. I've already talked with a number of the folks on this call tonight and look forward to more conversations around the province to discern what the next steps are. As far as upcoming events and opportunities, Province 5, we have a Google group of embedded campus chaplains and folks who are involved in any type of young adult and college ministry, where they are kept up to speed on things, resources, events, connections, and so forth. We have a quarterly Zoom gathering where people share best practices, hopes and dreams and sorrows in ministry. And this summer, a number of us from Province 5 will be attending the Ecumenical YACM conference in St. Louis the last week of June. So we will share that in the follow-up email to this call. We will share the registration info for that. Would love to have people join us for that week in St. Louis. And all of this is building towards the launch of our first kind of YACM training cohort for Province 5 folks later this fall of 2025. So I'm going to be developing kind of a pilot version of a cohort where we'll gather together kind of on a monthly cycle, pretty much, teams from a variety of worshiping communities around the province, kind of taking the next steps in terms of both some training around Gen Z and college ministry 101, so to speak, and then some coaching as to what is it going to look like in your unique ministry context, your campus context, your church context, and so forth. We're going to look forward to launching the first version of that in the fall, so stay tuned later this spring for more information and registration details on all that. And then lastly, tools. A couple tools we'll be sharing. Mother Bobbi referenced one of these. We'll share these with you in the follow-up email. The first is a campus ministry assessment from Father Alan Wakabayashi, who serves as chaplain at Princeton University, the Episcopal chaplain at Princeton University. And Alan has a great tool for thinking through, what are the resources that we bring to ministry, but what are the needs of the campus? Lots of the things we kind of talked about tonight, he's laid that all out in about 5 questions or 7 questions of how to kind of get curious about the campus that you're reaching out to. And then Mother Bobbi referenced the What Not to Say at Coffee Hour handout put together by Reverend Stacy Allen at the Brent House at the University of Chicago. So we'll share those resources with you as well in the follow-up to this, and look forward to more conversations in the future. But now as we close, I want to turn it over to our Province 5 coordinator, Heather Barta, who herself is deeply committed. I'm going to have her say just briefly why you're so committed to campus ministry and how that led you to create my position and help us lean into this work together in Province 5, and then share some of the other opportunities for Province 5 that we are offering folks around the region.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erich. Thank you everyone for being here, and thanks for letting me crash your party. I am a product of campus ministry. I am a graduate of Michigan State. So as part of that campus ministry between 91 and 95. So I wouldn't be here without campus ministry. Also, campus ministry is what helped me, both my youth work and my young adult work, helped me understand what a province was and the cool things that provinces can do. So now I'm the coordinator of Province 5, which is the best job ever for me, and having a great time with that. So my first job out of seminary, I was the interim Episcopal chaplain at Northwestern University. So I spent a couple of years there, and then I thought I needed to do the parish thing, so I left campus ministry, and that might have been a huge mistake. But here we are now. So I'm all supportive of the campus ministry thing, really, really passionate about it, as Erich and Bobbi know, and just really so excited to have Erich on staff, have Erich doing the support work. So thank you for showing up for this. If you don't know what Province 5 is, I put a link. I would love for you to be on the mailing list. So if you're not yet on the mailing list, please sign up for the form or just shoot me a message, email me, everything's there. You do want to mark the YACM page. That's where you can easily find when the next quarterly network call is, what the Zoom link is, right? So even if you lose an email that reminds you what it is or when it is, the information is always sitting there. I repeated the campus ministry developer page so you can reach Erich directly through that. And then the other big initiative that I want to just mention tonight is there is an anti-human trafficking training that Province 5 is doing that is also grant funded through Becoming Beloved Community grant from the Episcopal Church. So 2 more trainings have opened up in May. You just have to pick one. It's a 90-minute session. People have found it incredibly valuable. Please plan on attending, or even if that's not your thing, please pass that on to people. The more people who can learn about that, the better. And then there'll be some more in the fall too. But that's the big news from Province 5 right now. Lots of things happening, lots of things coming up. But the April newsletter next week will tell you all of those things also.
Great. Thanks so much, Heather, for being here and for all your work on behalf of college ministry and everything else going on in the province. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mother Bobbi to close us and send us out.
Thank you, Erich. The Lord be with you.
Awesome.
Gracious God, I thank you for this group and for those who will watch this recording afterwards, whose hearts have been touched to listen and to follow your spirit. Lead us, guide us, and give us eyes to observe and ears to hear and hearts to do the work you call us to do. Be with us as we continue through this Lent and observing how we can grow deeper in relationship with you, with our neighbors, and discerning what you call for us in our hearts. Send us forth now to do the work that you would have us to do in your Son's name. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, beloved community, for the work that you're doing and for sharing your stories. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.